Hey guys, VaulSC here. Welcome to another Bat Rep. This time we're going to be playing Akari, of course, continuing with my new Aleph Sectorial, up against the brand new Aleph Sectorial. Always have to remind myself what they're called. Operations subsection of the OSS. Not 100% sure I'm up to speed on the background and the fluff for them, but they seem like a really new, interesting sectorial. Might do a bit of a sort of a semi-review of them next week, a little bit of an impressions, but maybe not. We'll see what happens. So my buddy Phil, who I play against very regularly, he's an Aleph player who's been on many of my bat reps, is having his first game with the new Aleph Sectorial. Let's just call them OSS for short for the meantime, until I can think of a better name for them. And we're also playing on the brand new mission Frostbyte, which I think is a really cool mission. I think that most games of Frostbyte will turn out to be fairly normal games of infiNity. It's not so wildly radical as Biotech Vor or Highly Classified. But yeah, should be a good one. So Akari versus OSS. So let's get into it and find out what's going on. So I'll just minimize the cam for a second while we talk about the battlefield. Okay, so I've set up a battlefield here, and I'm going to pick the color orange to go through some of the stuff. So you can see straight away that you've got one deployment zone over here and one deployment zone over here. For this bat rep, we're going to have Akari on this side and the Aleph on this side. And there are 3 consoles through the middle, just in the same way that there are in a lot of other missions like supplies or what have you. So you move a specialist over one of the middle consoles, and that allows you to select one of these 4 heating units. And each unit corresponds to a particular place. This one right back here corresponds to my deployment zone. So what I'm going to be wanting to do is press one of the buttons and heat up my deployment zone so I don't lose my models at the end of the game. There's also the little dead zone, exclusion zone bit here. And then, of course, the corresponding zones for the other player. A lot of the points actually come from keeping your data tracker alive and moving into this middle exclusion zone by the end of the game. So you've got to choose your data tracker wisely. My opponent will be running a Asura Spitfire Lieutenant level 2, so double Lieutenant order for her as the data tracker, while I'll be using a Scarface. In fact, it's the debut of Scarface for this one. All right, so he's won the dice roll, has decided to pick the table side that he likes and forcing me to deploy first. I've decided to go with the second turn, just because my strategy for this one is going to be to defend really well against his attacks. If he gets more army kills than me, then so be it. But I'm going to try and move my data tracker into the middle zone at the end of the game, and if he's moved his data tracker into the middle zone, it'll be in a spot where I might be able to kill it. So that is going to be my strategy. So deploying straight up, we've got a Pangolin Minesweeper in the far left-hand flank, 8-point Minesweeper bot. Then you've got a Flash Pulse bot here, the Lieutenant Brawler off by himself, not part of the link team, a Killer Hacker Ninja there, prone on the stairs, a twin SMGs Krakot, and this particular guy has rolled up the +3 Fizz and Regeneration. In the middle, we've got the Pano Pathfinder bot, so that is my left-hand flank. On the right-hand side, though, this is where all the action is. So we've got the link team. So behind the big building, there's a Desperado with twin assault pistols. On the building itself, we've got the new Kaisotsu HMG there. We've got the Tanko missile launcher there. There's the Brawler multi-sniper there as well. A doctor nearby to help out the Tanko if he falls. A basic Kaisotsu with no frills. Another basic Kaisotsu over here. There's Cordelia, who's going to back up Scarface later on, well, potentially, and of course my HVT right out the other side there. So the link team involves the 2 Kaisotsus, the Brawler, the third Kaisotsu with HMG, and the Tanko, but they're all prone except for the Tanko. So the idea here is that the Tanko is going to get a big view through this big vector right throughout the table, and that's going to be become apparent a little bit later. So a bit of a closer look, you can see Cordelia on the right, couple of basic Kaisotsus nearby, the bike at the back, the doctor just hanging down the stairs. Don't want to get hit by a template and have the splash damage from the Tanko affect the doctor, so just being a bit cautious with her. And you can sort of see that a little bit more clearly. The Brawler's a fair way up the stairs from the Tanko. The other Kaisotsu's on a completely different staircase altogether, and the doctor's, on a third set altogether. So there it is. A bit of a view of my HVT. He's trying to land a net rod, but it bounces all the way to the middle of the table because it fails the fizz check. When the OSS army list got posted the other day online for the very first time, it was very bugged. There were a lot of problems, and they had to fix a few things. Now, initially, a few people, myself included, thought that netrods were availability 3, but they edited that and went back to availability 2. At this moment where we played the game, my opponent still thought that it was availability 3. So we're playing this game with a slightly illegal OSS list. He's got 3 netrods instead of 2. We're going to let that slide. It's not really a big deal. We'll keep playing, but it's just, because we didn't know at that point. So you can see his Asura Spitfire, Data Tracker, Level 2 Lieutenant, and then back here there's going to be a bit more of a link team. So we've got a Dakini and a Diva. There's also, I think that's an Aspara, new Sparrow represented by a bounty underway at the back, so we'll have a closer look at this. So here comes the link team. So he's running Dakini HMG here, and a secondary Dakini HMG over this side. There's a basic Dakini with combi rifle here, a Diva over here, and there's a paramedic Dakini further back. So we'll see that in a moment. But this is the way to play OSS. Have at least one Diva on your link team, have a whole bunch of Dakinis, and play them aggressively because they've got the 6-4 speed, mimetism, they can take HMGs. You really want to sort of run and gun with them quite well. I don't think the 2 HMGs is necessary though. I'd only take 1. So here's a little bit of a better look. So you've got the 2 other Dakinis on this side, HMG over here, and then the other 2 on this side here. Now, my opponent has been playing vanilla Aleph for the longest time, hardly ever uses the fire team mechanics. So already he's starting to make a couple mistakes with his fire teams. He's got his HMG over here in a position where it's supposed to be the one attacking, but there's no repeaters nearby to get the Danavas to put assisted fire on him, so the Danavas might actually have to move a fair bit before planting that. He's also got 2 HMGs, and they may not necessarily be within coherency. He was originally going to deploy this guy out here in line of sight of my Tanko, but because you can't deploy in base contact with a heating unit, he wouldn't benefit from cover on the very first order. So I gave him a bit of advice, say, hey, do you want to move that model back? Yes, he did move it further to the left. That put him out of coherency, so we did a bit more reshuffling after this photo was taken. He's gone with that new Aspara Sky with the submachine gun to try out G-Jumper Level Z. G-Jumper Level Z is an interesting mechanic which allows potentially a remote to benefit from the stats of the Asparas, but it can't be used with assisted fire at the same time. So I don't think it's particularly powerful because of that, but my opponent may be trying it out this game anyway. Okay, on my side, Lieutenant is a brawler nearby. My reserve model is this guy, Scarface. I've converted him, so he's actually holding a gun with one arm. I've done a pretty poor job of the conversion, in my opinion. It's kind of on an awkward angle. He's sort of a little bit disabled, or a little bit disabled's not the right word. He's got a problem with his arm there, which prevents him from holding his gun correctly. But he is going to be making his debut. I don't really rate Scarface fairly highly. But if you try and compare him to something like a Sujian, where it's sort of like they're both armor 5, they could both move about the same rate, their guns, about the same, they've both got a Panzerfaust. That's the sort of role you want to play with him. Play him as a heavy infantry model. Don't really play him as a tag so much. Try to make use of Joe Turner inside the tag for the specialist benefit, and just play him conservatively, or just throw him in as a bullet and let him go. I think is the way to go here. My opponent, of course, putting down some posthumans. I think there's an engineer and a twin SMG specialist, and there's a posthuman sniper somewhere as well. So right at the start of the game, we've got the Danavas putting down assisted fire support wear on one of the HMG Dakini bots. There's some reshuffling now, so what they're wanting to do is move carefully around here, and this guy's just hanging back at the side. These guys are moving around this side. There's a very long and dangerous fire lane where the Tanko missile launcher could see through there, so he's preparing to get ready to engage onto that. So the Dakini you can see on the right-hand side with assisted fire is actually not going to be the one firing at the Tanko. The guy on the left is, which is kind of crazy in my view. So what he's doing is he's attacking the Tanko with a guy that may be out of range of 32 and doesn't have a support wear. So the game already off to a very questionable start for Aleph. A bit of a teething problem really with learning to use link teams and getting used to the new sectorial, because he's literally only played one faction for a few years now. So this doesn't end up going particularly well. There's a Tanko up there able to fire missiles. the Tanko works out to be in range and the Dakini isn't. So I believe he runs into a bit of trouble there. Actually, no, he doesn't run into any trouble. He gets lucky and damages my Tanko enough so that the Tanko actually falls unconscious. So despite pretty bad odds, I think he needed like 8s or something like that. On 5 dice, he rolls a crit and gets a couple of other hits in. I save 1, and the Tanko falls. So a good start actually based on luck, but really precarious situation. So that allows him to move up with his post-human Twin SMG specialist, press the button after 2 attempts for the console, and that's going to activate the heating unit you see there. So he's also decided to go for the dead zone heating unit, not the one in his deployment zone. So that says that he's planning on moving his entire army out of his deployment zone into that little sort of passageway right outside of his deployment zone, which, again, I thought was a little bit weird. I think it's a bit easier just to go for the deployment zone because the bulk of your army is going to be staying there, and you don't have to use as many orders to get them out. But he's planning on moving up quite aggressively with a lot of his units, so that's I guess why he put the heating lamp on. Diva over here, not Diva, Danavas just moving into a better forward position, which is also within the heated area, and then moving out with Dakinis and repositioning them. So the real problem with this move is that he's moving all of these guys to positions where they're visible from my deployment zone, which is bad. Those of you who play sectorials a lot will know that you should definitely not leave weaker members of your link team visible to your opponent's deployment zone, because your opponent will just pick their strongest attacking, sweeping, high burst weapon piece to pick apart your link team where it's weakest. If you're going to ARO with any members of your link team at all, simply choose the most powerful one. So what you should be doing with the Dakini is put assisted fire on the HMG and make only the HMG visible, if you're going to do that at all, or even the multi-sniper would be better, and keep everybody else hidden. But these Dakinis are actually visible, like this is my point of view, optically here from my deployment zone, so I think we all know what's going to be happening very shortly. His lieutenant moving up and just covering his left-hand flank over this side. There's this HVT there with his lieutenant order putting down suppression fire over this flank here. So it's Akari turn 1. There's the biker moving out, and because he positioned one member of his link team up here, that Dakini with its combi rifle can shoot. But it is a long-range shot, and it's going up against smoke, so a smoke template goes down here, and luckily the Desperado biker wins that trade-off and puts the smoke down. Now, the rules have been changed in Season 10. You can deploy airborne deployment units without needing to fit them inside the circular template. So the Yuan going for gold, trying to drop down right behind enemy lines, and then, if successful, move out past these boxes. And hang on. Excuse me. Move out past these boxes and put his chain rifle down on top of the Asura and the net rod and one of the proxies. Unfortunately, he needs an 11, and he's up against the Danavas, which can hack the transport on something like an 8. So he unfortunately fails this one and disperses. Disperses all the way over to this point here, where somebody with a combi rifle over in this region shoots at him. Now that I think about it, I think it was actually the Danavas that did shoot him, so that wouldn't have been legal since the Danavas used its arrow to hack transport, which is quite comical. But anyway, we forgot about that. The Yuan is hit, fails the armor save, and goes down. The other Yuan tries to go and land in the same spot and fails its check, because I'm taking 2 Yuan this list, by the way, and scatters off the board, so I'm deploying them back here in my deployment zone. So this is the same model, basically recycled back over here, where it can be used on my side. All right, as predicted, the Doctor, who is prone, just carefully slides up around the corner, taps the injured Tanko on the shoulder, and revives him after a command token is spent as backup, and the Tanko is back with 1 wound intact. That's going to allow us to reform a link team of 5. Then the Kaisotsu with the HMG crawls down the stairs without coming in line of sight, just so he can actually move over to this position. There's a wall here, and he's going to be able to just sort of slice the pie around that wall so he comes into range of just a single Dakini. So that Dakini with the combi rifle up here, I can move this silhouette here in such a way that only only line of fire is between this guy and the Kini with a combi rifle. So it's a Kaisotsu in a 5-man link with cover in a good range band up against a Dakini with just mimetism, not in cover, firing back with just a combi rifle. So the Kaisotsu wins this and basically reduces the enemy link team to a 4-man link, which makes life a lot easier. Then the Tanko can stand up and split his burst between the two HMG Dakinis which are hanging out over there. So over here and over here. The Dakinis can shoot back. One of them's got assisted fire, one of them doesn't. I've still got a doctor there if I take a wound. But the thing is, the Tanko is hitting on 13s on 2 dice, so he's just putting 1 dice into each, and also there's going to be splash damage. So at this point, the Tanko starts to go ballistic and blows up the Dakini with support wear on it. He eventually blows up this Dakini over here and puts splash damage onto this Aspara, whatever you call it, Asparis, and blows that up as well. So things looking really grim for our Aleph friends. They have been devastated by the Kaisotsu and Tanko heavy weapons, and a lot of SWCs have been put in the rubbish bin right now. Scarface just pulls around the corner a little bit, getting line of sight to his post-human with twin SMGs in the middle of the table, who forgot to go prone and hide anywhere. So he cranks out the twin Mark 12s and blasts it, inflicts 1 wound. There's NWI in the post-human, so it just goes guts back into cover and escapes. But Scarface is now hanging out to provide some arrows now that he's lost his HMGs. The Desperado, having thrown down a smoke grenade, now that the Dakinis have been clear, moving further forward, eliminating this net rod in the middle of the table with its twin assault pistols, continuing to drive up here where it can get into range of the wounded post-human. The post-human opts for a nanopulsar, which, unfortunately for the nanopulsar, the Desperado just shrugs that off with a past BTS save on like an 18, and then twin assault pistols to the face onto the post-human, just wrecks him and removes him. Ninja moving out to a better spot, just getting into a position where I'm going to be able to move over and press the button to heat up my deployment zone later on. And Cordelia moving out with the remainder of Group 1's orders. She's just going to be leaving her home base position and moving out over here to press the button on this console so that I can actually heat up the deployment zone by the end of the turn. And that is indeed what happens. And she stays back behind the wall next to the HVT as she presses it and gets that one solved. So turn 2 for Aleph, seeing that he's in a really bad way and down on a lot of options, decides to reveal the post-human in TO Camo. Now, knowing that this TO Camo marker is here, I feel like he's made a mistake in not revealing it earlier. So what I might have done in his shoes would have been to ARO with 2 shots from the Dakini HMG and another 2 shots from the other Dakini HMG and reveal the post-human sniper at that point, because it's a surprise, right? So the Tanko thinks he's going to be splitting 2 missiles on 2 Dakinis, and now he's having to contend with a shot which can actually quite easily kill him from the post-human as well. Given that he's revealing himself in the active turn, he's going to get shot at by a Panzerfaust from Scarface over this side here, and the 2 missiles from the Tanko as well. So turns out to be disastrous. The post-human doesn't actually win the face-to-face roll against the Tanko. The Tanko manages to get a missile in there, a cheeky missile, and explodes him. The Panzerfaust from the Scarface misses and just wastes a round of ammunition, but the post-human sniper is gone, so he really is out of big guns except for the Sofitec. So the Asura. So you can sort of see the measurement there. He's just trying to set up with the post-human and over here as well, so it's a multi-way affair, shall we say. I forgot to take a photo of it, but my bike in the middle of the table did eventually get shot by somebody's combi rifle and hit the dust, so that is gone. All right, Asura now moving out. There's a spot. This Quangxi is a Yuan one, by the way. That's the proxy model that I decided to use. So the Asura moving out now. There's a spot where the Asura can actually cautious move past the Tanko and get into a flanking position. So that's exactly what it does. This particular truck, the box of it, does block line of sight from Scarface. So once the Asura has cautious moved over here, it's going to be able to move around here and then up the stairs if it so desires. So that's what is going on there. So the Asura actually thinks to have a go at, I think, Scarface at one point. Scarface fails the face-to-face roll and I think tanks the armor save though and pulls back behind cover. So that allows the Asura very bravely to go up against the Tanko. And fair enough, I mean, he has to take risks at this point. He's down a lot. But the Asura having to move in and shoot at like 4 dice on 14s versus 2 dice on 13s, because it's 0 range band for the Tanko. So really risky. I mean, 4 dice on 14s versus 2 dice on 13s. Yes, the Asura is definitely favored to win, but you could so easily mess that up. What happens is the Asura does actually lose the face-to-face roll, but tanks the armor saves with some really high numbers and takes just a single wound. Deciding to try something else, and this is a little bit questionable, but the Asura being over here, he's now got a coordinated order going on with one of his free-range Dakinis, not part of a link, and a Diva over here, and they're all going to try and close in on the position of, the Tanko up there. So it's a multi-pronged coordinated attack. I can only choose one of them to shoot back at. So what happens here, though, is the Asura is shooting on 2 dice on 14s because it's half burst for the coordinated order. And the Tanko is 2 dice on 13s, so it's even more likely that his Asura is going to get blown up. And then there's 2 combi rifles, which are very unlikely to do anything because they're at long range up against cover, and the Tanko is quite heavily armored. So this is not great. What ends up happening is that I think the Tanko does lose the face-to-face roll, but survives. I think it's fairly even against the Asura, but the Asura, I think, gets 1 hit through, and the Tanko passes the armor save, and the other 2 shots miss. So not looking great. He does attempt to do a triangulator fire with the Diva sensor now that the Diva has gotten into position, but that works out quite poorly, and she takes a face full of missiles and gets blown up. So Asura moving on to the stairs here, not coming into line of sight of the Tanko anymore, and just setting up there. You can see here that Scarface is shot by the Asura at some point during that turn. He's wasted all of his Panzerfaust rounds now, so he's completely unloaded. He could actually pick up some ammunition from this Minesweeper over the left, but that would be quite time-consuming, not really enough time to do that. As a last desperate Hail Mary, he's trying to spec fire a repeater next to the Tanko with his Danavis. I think this is quite a poor move because the Doctor could just shoot it with the combi rifle when it comes to my turn. So the spec fire fails anyway. He needed a really low result. It's long range plus spec fire, so very hard to pick it off. And we're now on to Akari turn 2. So the Krakot Renegade springs into action. He's ripping up with 2 submachine guns, encounters this Dakini in the middle of the table, and blasts him with the twin SMGs. The Yuan on my right-hand flank moves up down along the flank and climbs up onto the side of the building. And he's planning on coming into close combat with the Asura because on his booty level 1 table, he managed to roll up a monofilament blade, which is quite the weapon for killing an Asura. So after 3 orders spent, he's moved up next to the wall. He's moved up the wall with the climb move. Then he could just move closer to the Asura, force her to do a change face / reset ARO that'll allow him to come around the corner a bit further. And then with his final order from Group 2, he can move into close combat and try and kill her. Now, the monofilament blade, I believe, wins the close combat, but she passes the armor save, and we're just ending the turn with the Yuan one there. I will have one more turn to berserk into her, but if the Aleph player here does things correctly, I believe that the right method to solve this problem is to shoot into combat and kill the Yuan one, because the Asura is so tough. All right, so there's also a Krakot moving around to try and shoot at this this proxy posthuman in the background, but it's bad range for the submachine gun, pretty good range for the SMG, and sorry, the combi rifle, so the Krakot does get killed here. Cordelia, now moving up a little bit further, just getting a little bit of line of sight to the Danavis, firing its combi rifle at the Danavis and eliminating her. So a bit of work there from Cordelia, and then continuing to move around to take out a net rod. So she's moved out to the spot around about here, shot a net rod which was there just over the edge of the stairs, and then able to move back somewhere else. And you can still see the combat raging on the staircase over there. All right, so this Krakot here from my opponent represents an Asparis person with a submachine gun, just taking on the corpse of the Krakot, just because he doesn't want me to use regeneration, which is an ability available to the Krakot there. So Isparis killing the Krakot, getting rid of that corpse, and then the post-human engineer with combi rifle moving out to destroy Cordelia, just rub it into it with the combi rifle. And although it's a bit questionable, he decides to actually take on the Yuan Yuan in close combat with the Asura, and the Yuan Yuan rolls exactly a 19, which crits her and removes her from the board. So that's unlucky. If the Yuan Yuan just simply beats the Asura in close combat and she fails the armor save, well, you would have got the same result anyway, so the crit wasn't too significant there. I tried to point out to my opponent that the game is basically lost no matter what at this point anyway, so it doesn't really matter what happens to the Yuan Yuan, as I demonstrated, because that was his last order, and I just explained to him that, hey, my data tracker can move into the middle of the table, and we've both got data trackers alive, assuming the Asura wins that fight, and so neither of us gets the points for the middle, but counting our army points, he's almost in retreat, whereas I've got most of my army left, so it's a pretty clear win to the Akari. So interesting game, pretty sad game for the first outing of the Aleph Sectorial, but as you guys can see, it's just a number of very fixable mistakes. All you need to really do in situations like this is just be careful with the positioning of your linked team, and just make sure the splash damage of an enemy missile launcher doesn't take any effect. And if you do things correctly, well, you've got a Dakini with HMG in the correct range band with assisted fire, needing 17s to hit on 5 dice against that Tanko, and the Tanko is firing back at maybe either +3 or 0 range band up against mimetism and cover on 2 dice, and is very likely to just die, and then you can roll forward with your Dakinis, put them in a better spot, and wait for your opponent to come to you. Also, his choice of when to reveal his post-human sniper wasn't great. I believe if that had been a turn earlier, that would have been a lot better. And other than that, Frostbyte just turned out to be a fairly straightforward mission. I would have hoped to have killed his data tracker. Well, technically I did. That's actually what happened. So this is actually a landslide win for Akari. But as I demonstrated, in this bat rep, I wouldn't have needed to kill the Asura to win this particular game, because I was safe in my deployment zone with the heating unit turned on, and I was up on points, and we both were in positions to put our data trackers in the middle. So yeah, pretty clear-cut one. Well, that's it for this bat rep, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I'll have some more time to talk about OSS next week, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of games against them in the near future, so we'll see how they progress. See you again next time.